Hi, everyone. My name is Tom Greco, and I'm one of the regional sales managers here at Foundation Software. I'd like to thank everybody for attending today's webinar. Today, we're going to take a look at Foundation Software and how Foundation Software can effectively help, especially with heavy highway contractors in the job costing area. And we'll touch on some other areas too. So we'll get a good dive into the system. These are kind of more of like a brief overview, just kind of touching on some highlights. And obviously, if there's more information that you have or need to look at the system a little bit further, you can always reach out to us and we can set up a one-on-one demonstration. Now, before we jump into the system, just kind of a couple housekeeping things here. Pretty much everybody's in mute-only mode. So if there are questions or anybody needs anything, there should be an area within your GoToMeeting player where you can then key in those questions, and I'll be able to go through those with you at the end of the presentation to kind of go through anything and everything that you need. So for those that don't know anything about Foundation Software, we are a job cost accounting system designed specifically for construction, which has been our roots since 1985. So it's a system that's been around for a very long time, originally written for construction, and heavy highway tends to be probably one of our top fits for the most benefits of Foundation. Within the system itself, it is a hosted solution or an on-premise solution that is designed to replace your current accounting solution and provide you with a lot more efficiencies, both from not only just your day-to-day accounting, but increase your ability to capture payroll from the field. We'll touch on some other areas like equipment costing, production costing, but all around something that fits that industry pretty well. Where I tend to start with my presentation is kind of more of the output of if we do things right in the system, what our reports would look like on the surface. We'll dive into some more of the reports, and we'll talk a little bit about how the data gets to these reports. Now, with the system, it is going to be something that we refer to as a one-point of entry software, meaning if we capture time from the field or capture it from within the system, or we want to implement third-party estimating, or we want to enter a payable invoice. We're only looking to do that stuff one time. So it's big for us to, not force people to do things multiple times, where we tend to see that with a lot of the off-the-shelf systems or some of the more of the older softwares that require, double entry, double posting, accounting in one system, and then I have to take that information and put it into a spreadsheet. We want to eliminate all of that. And from a job cost perspective, it always starts with the job, right? So as we get jobs or awarded projects, we want to enter those into Foundation with the anticipation of it being a live job and job costing against that. Real quick and easy way to see some of the levels of details just with this dashboard here. Being able to take a project that I have existing in the system, and if I come into the system, whether it be once a day, every other day, once a week, I'm confident that Foundation is the source of truth and all the accounting lives in the system, so therefore the report should be as accurate as anybody entering data into Foundation. Let's say this job here, I want to drill into it. So all I'm going to do right now is just double click on Midwest Turnpike. And now I'm able to actually drill into the various details of the job. So what we've done here is taken a lot of the popular, important reports and kind of neatly put them in one area so that if people want to come into this specific job and get whatever types of details they want, they can just begin to drill into that project in the various areas that you see here. And all these areas that are pretty much highlighted in blue are just meant to be clicked on. They're drill downs. So I would say probably, what I see the most popular with heavy highway contractors is the detail costs. So, can we show the job has $242,000 worth of cost? Absolutely. But let's drill into that cost and see exactly kind of where we're at each line item here. Now, the next question that typically comes up is, well, I'm using a third-party estimating solution like B2W, Heavy Bid, Construction Link. Do you guys integrate with those solutions? And the answer would be yes. So it's our goal to use other technology built for heavy highway, especially on the estimating side, to then bring that information into Foundation from an accounting perspective and now allow a lot more visibility and use those great numbers that we've brought in from those estimating solutions, where now we can track the job more effectively. We tend to find that with off-the-shelf systems, you might be using like a Heavy Bid, And that doesn't integrate with my current accounting solution. So I'm kind of stuck in the weeds of, okay, well, I have, this estimate and I can't track anything against it. And that's kind of where we come into play. We are able to build integrations within Foundation where if we are using a third-party tool like HeavyBid or like B2W, we can bring that information into here from an estimated cost perspective. Where then now as we apply cost, is being applied in the same fashion as we estimate. So we see 10 cost codes on this job or 5 cost codes or 100. There's a very nice integration piece that we can bring this information in, and then obviously the actual cost coming from Foundation. Now, each of these cost codes are definitely going to be significant, and they're all going to be set up based on how you job cost in your company. So when we do implement Foundation, we do our own implementations in-house, and we build it all around you. So if you see some things on here that maybe don't make sense to what you do, keep in mind that they will be set up per your specs and per your specs in relation to if you are using a third-party tool. Now, with the estimated cost, that's obviously going to be broken down a lot more than just a whole number. So it gives us an ability that if we want to drill into any single one of these cost codes and get that next layer underneath it, or we want to track the estimated quantities versus the actual quantities, all things that are very doable in the system. On top of that, estimated hours versus actual hours. If we're performing any type of certified payroll or union payroll, that's really what the system's kind of geared for. It's been our grassroots from 1985 to today. So a lot of other systems kind of struggle with that type of payroll, where that's kind of one of our bread and butter things that we do in the system. Now, as we look at this labor, we can see the estimated versus the actual. We can see the equipment. We can see the materials. So if we have any need to track labor, we're tracking that in Foundation. And what's nice about the system is we can always take you to the furthest level of detail. Meaning, if I look at this labor number or I look at these labor hours and I want to know how that information got there, I can easily just click on labor here, drill into that labor number, and see all the time cards that did come through payroll. So transparency is going to be kind of one of the more upsides, especially when we work with heavy highway contractors, of providing that information of what those numbers consist of. And it would be the same thing with equipment. I always see labor, equipment being kind of more the big two pieces of what a heavy highway contractor aims to track, which a lot of off-the-shelf systems, they just don't have an equipment module. So there's not an effective way that we can set up pieces of equipment or get any type of usable information on what our equipment really cost us. Where, once again, we want to be the opposite here. We have an equipment module that lives in Foundation, in which we're able to set up all these pieces of equipment and effectively job cost them. So that if I'm looking at this owned equipment number of $2,000, and just like labor, I've spent $1,200 on there. I've estimated 10 hours. Well, I've used 10 hours. Well, where is all that information coming from? Once again, I can just click on own equipment and then see every piece of equipment that was used on this project, the specific equipment number, the cost associated with that piece of equipment, and ultimately the hours. Now, with this kind of brief overview, keep in mind, we do every style of construction billing. So if we have anybody attending today that also maybe does time and material billing, this is also a nice way of saying, well, if we do have recorded equipment, can we potentially turn around and mark that up for a billing purpose? Absolutely. So the information lives in the system, and the system's more than capable of providing you with additional tools on top of standard billings that would automate that billing process. Same thing with change orders. If we're looking to revise quantities or we're looking to revise the project, one of the nice things about the system is we're never going to lose sight of what we originally bid the job and were awarded at. Then obviously, here's the aggregate number of change orders, and here's where the job lives today. So we're always able to have a central area and especially a process where we can track those change orders in the system, not only track them by job, but once again, how do these change orders affect our original budget or adding new line items to the project? We want to have some audit trail within here. We just don't want changes to be made in the system and not have any type of rhyme or reason. So there's a nice ability to have a standardized change order process where then now we can review those change orders as they unfold within the job. So I kind of like to start here just showing you some quick and easy drill downs where we can start drilling into some of the jobs, drilling into some of the areas of the jobs. Definitely talk about the difference of how we track costs, where, like I said, some systems struggle with cost coding. They might struggle with integration with third-party estimating, or they might not even provide equipment tracking. We do it all. Now, also in the system, we have an ability that, as we set those jobs up, if we have to produce maybe more so of what we consider DOT billing, or, some people might refer to as pay estimates. We do have a designated module for just those styles of bills. Now, we can do lump sum receivables, we can do lump sum AIA billings, we can do time and material billings, but it's just kind of focusing on the heavy highway aspect. We do have an ability to produce unit price billing in the system. So one of the few systems out there that kind of have industry-specific billing tools that I can go in and create those receivable invoices and or track my billed quantities all in one area. Our unit price billing module also integrates with third-party estimating as well. So if we do have a very lengthy unit price bid that we've possibly created in, once again, Heavy Bid or B2W or Construction Link, can we export that and import that into the system where it would, in essence, create all the items here for this pay application or pay estimate? Absolutely. Our team would work with you hands-on developing that import, where then if we are awarded a job, now we have an ability to bring in both the cost side as well as the billing side and refer to the billing quantities and the unit prices. So as we work our way down here, it's pretty simple. All we're doing is going by each line item and filling in the quantities that we want to record for revenue. Now, this may come from an engineer's report, or this may come from something that we just want to prepare. We'll talk about how we get those quantities, but we're able to kind of manage what we've completed, less billed, and also billing for quantities and tracking that retainage too is important. Once again, if we need to produce something construction specific, and I'm going to identify just kind of one style, the AIA, we no longer have to do these in Excel. They are going to be done directly out of the system, in which you have what I consider your 702 or your cover sheet. And then on the second page, you would have all of your DOT items, you would have all of your quantities, everything that you are aiming to bill for on this pay application or record as revenue. And that's all done directly out of Foundation as opposed to Excel. Now, always the question is, well, this is built quantities. How can we better track completed quantities? There may be a discrepancy. It's the age-old, hey, I've done this production-wise, but maybe the engineer's only paying me for A, B, and C. We never want to lose sight with what we've completed versus what we've built. And how can we also take maybe potentially some of those labor numbers? We looked at estimated labor hours, quantities. How can we kind of compare that to what we budgeted from a production standpoint? And that's going to probably be number one, maybe possibly number two, probably most sought after report for Heavy Highway and Foundation. We're very strong in the ability to create those estimates with those quantities, with those cost codes, and then we're tracking everything against it. So there's an ability for us to come into the system at any given point in time. There's a production report. We want to select a specific job that we're looking to track. And then all we're doing is putting in a date range and running the report. And it's going to pull in all of the cost codes that were imported or entered on this specific project. It's going to pull in the current hours that have come from payroll, the to-date hours. So there's some date sensitivity here where we can compare within a specific time frame versus job to date. Same thing with budgeted hours and then budgeted quantities. Now, through either field entry or a third-party timekeeping solution as well, we're able to track not only just the actual hours, but the actual production. Now, whether that comes from a daily time card or end of the week, end of the day production report from a foreman, that information is coded down to the cost code as well, and now we're able to bring that into Foundation software. We can then compare what we've budgeted for production versus what we've completed. We can also have the system do custom reporting, where I can take this number and subtract this number, and there could be another column, whether we're in line or out of line of production. You can also do some various custom reporting in the system that can tailor these reports a step further than maybe just what you see on the screen here. And it's all done within the system. It's not a third-party tool. It's our custom report designer that we work with you during the implementation, teach you how to use it. And as a customer of Foundation, you're then able to create your own custom reports. Drill downs are also capable in any of our custom reports as well. But the big thing is production. Getting down to it to see whether or not individuals in the field are doing what they need to do to stay in line with how we've estimated the job, or do we need to make some changes? Do we need to add more bodies? Do we need to, potentially make a job visit and say, hey, what's going on here, guys? All that information is useful, and it lives in the system, and it's all able to be integrated. Now, on the equipment side, we talked a little bit about, okay, we have a budget for equipment. What is your equipment module all about? We want to be able to track every, what I consider, main type of cost. One being payroll and labor, maybe materials, but equipment's very important, especially on the heavy highway side, of being able to actually have a module that we can set up pieces of equipment, and most important, being able to job cost that equipment. We want to eliminate the allocation in the dark after the fact with off-the-shelf systems. How can we better use our time, and how can we better be accurate on the job cost side, where we can actually set pieces of equipment up in our accounting software, associate a specific job cost rate to that piece of equipment, and then as we capture time and or equipment in the field, or we just want to enter equipment hours into the software, we're now actually having some real-time livable numbers for our equipment. Now, there's some other nice benefits of tracking equipment in Foundation outside of the job costing, where we can, dabble into tracking some of the service-related expenses, potentially work orders, being able to track, is our equipment being serviced more than it's being used? So there's some nice metrics reporting in equipment, but I would say for today's discussion, we're looking at more of the job costing side. So I always want to pop in here and show that, yes, we have a livable equipment module that we can create owned pieces of equipment. And then as we want to allocate those pieces of equipment, we're able to do so effectively in the system. These modules that we see here, equipment, payroll, they also extend out to our various mobile timekeeping solutions. We have two of them. One of them is referred to as Foundation Mobile, and we also have an excellent product called WorkMax, where we can set up pieces of equipment, obviously set up employees where we can have individuals in the field enter this information, have it pull into payroll, have our equipment costs already pre-coded, obviously reviewed before it gets to Foundation, but it is all stuff that lives in Foundation. Now, as we do time allocation, most particular, a lot of jobs that we tend to find, unless it's private work, it tend to be either multi-union, certified payroll, Davis-Bacon, all the above. And we have a really great ability to have specific areas of our software, mainly, job setup, right? I always say that, the reason for certified payroll or the reason for potentially a different union would be because of where the location of the job or what job was awarded. So as we set up jobs in Foundation, there are some indicators that we can put on that job that would require certified payroll and or attach a specific pay scale to the project or a specific union, in which we want to simplify this on the payroll side as much as we want to simplify everything. We all understand that most likely payroll has the most moving parts, right? The thing that takes the longest. So how can we better streamline that? And that's really kind of what Foundation has done since 1985 to today. I always say foundation is really geared for the labor-intensive contractor. So payroll being one of the biggest pieces, obviously, of a heavy highway contractor. So we want to streamline that. That is something that if people perform payroll in-house, it is a system that we can print paychecks, export direct deposits. So it's not just a payroll job costing software. It's a full accounting solution. And most important, how can we streamline that, right? So if we have scale jobs or certified payroll jobs, a lot of times off-the-shelf systems, once again, they don't know what that is, or they don't have any type of ability for you, the customer or contractor, to be able to produce certified payroll, which, as we probably know, that takes a lot of time and potentially leaves a lot of room for error, where if we're submitting or we're entering information into potentially like an Excel-based certified payroll, I might submit that and it might be completely off, and that could have some potential issues down the road if someone were to do an audit. We want that to be a lot more streamlined too. So with certified payroll, I like to say we have every copy or style of certified payroll, whether it's kind of the newly adopted electronic formats, which, from my experience, Ashtaware kind of being like the heavy highway or the heavy, DOT contractors, pretty much go to, other than like LCP Tracker and various other state formats. But Ashtaware kind of leads the way, I guess, on the heavy highway side, where we have every single state-specific Ashtaware upload. We do have an ability to produce EMARs. We do have an ability to produce LCP Tracker. So it is something that we envision the payroll process going a lot smoother in Foundation. Those rates are automated. Those fringes are automated. Time is coded to a job. And if we do all that right, this should just be something that I can go into at the end of the week and, either produce the output file or produce the actual paper copy, where I don't want to have to do these manual anymore. It should be something that comes out of my accounting solution where I'm saving time, I'm removing the risk of double entry, and they're coming directly out of the system. Also, too, some other highlights, that I see on the heavy highway side, workers' compensation reporting, being able to do minority compliance reporting, whether it's state specific and or paper copy, all good usable information where, once again, should be all automated from the system. So we do not need to do these manually or outside the software. Now, the final report that I kind of see a lot outside of production and unit price is going to be over under billing. So you may need to submit bonding reports and or over under billing reports, whether it be for accounting purposes or just simply, it's required from your bonding company. Once again, just kind of touching on a lot of inefficiencies of off-the-shelf systems. This is something that takes people, let's say in QuickBooks, a ton of time to do. It's extremely manual. Where in Foundation, Foundation will have the job. It should have the job budget. It should have any change orders related to that job. It should have all the billings. It should have all the cost. So therefore, I should be able to produce this out of Foundation as opposed to, having to take numbers from different various softwares and kind of plug them into Excel. Once again, leaving room for error and definitely taking up a lot of time. So that's kind of the main, kind of overview that I wanted to share today, more so on the heavy construction side or heavy highway side. And with that being said, I'd like to open up the floor for any questions. And just to kind of reiterate, anybody that's maybe potentially attended after the beginning of the presentation, there is an area within your GoToMeeting player where you'd be able to key in those questions, and then I'll be able to see them and answer any questions that we have. All right, so I don't think we have any questions today. I do like to thank everybody for attending. This was kind of just a brief overview of some of the highlights that we kind of focus on when we speak to heavy highway contractors about our accounting solution. If there are any questions or anybody would like to kind of dive a little bit further into the system, feel free to reach out to us at any time. My name is Tom Greco. I'm one of the regional sales managers here. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. And once again, thank you for everybody attending. Hope you guys all have a wonderful day.